Hey, so this should also be really quick. Just for a quick disclaimer, in the last episode I said I was going to work on this research poster, and another quick disclaimer: the poster I showed in the last episode, that was not the correct poster that I actually presented at the Spring Research Fair. This is the correct one. Slight adjustments. The other one had typos and just didn't look as nice. So that's the correct one, and that's the one I'm kind of working off of. Even though I'm trying to do from starting new with this research paper for the National Conference of Undergraduate Research. Also, going back to the original disclaimer, I did not work on the research paper yesterday as I said I would. It turned out my class enrollment was the same day, and I just want to make sure I had everything in order. So I dedicate my time to that instead, which is what it is. But let's get into it. So I don't want to go too deep into the research paper because I already gave like a Sparks note for dang, I hate when I go like start talking too fast and I forget to enunciate my words. But I only gave a Spark Notes version of the paper. But what I do want to talk about some stuff I want to extend on, just some stuff that I do think it will be nice to just add more to add and just address. So stuff like the digital divide. So for instance, when it comes to AI, and for those who know what the digital divide is, basically imagine like one group has access to more technology than the others, right? And how helpful technology is to that group that has it is something that causes the divide, right? And the outcomes of both groups. Because if you have access to that technology and those resources, you're more likely to have better outcomes than the people who don't. And then this causes a growing divide as you guys age and continue to go into higher places in life and all that. So consider that digital divide and it could take apply to education. So if some schools have access to high-speed internet and laptops and iPads in schools, now imagine schools that can barely even get iPads into schools or laptops or other technologies. Now you can't even make a case for AI in those schools. And it becomes really interesting when you think about how AI will exacerbate or just widen that digital divide. I think that's something I really want to touch on because it's something I don't think is considered enough. You can take it from even like in America, even like you have some schools that are flourishing with laptops, iPads, and all of that. They have schools that can't even afford like I don't want to say whiteboard markers, but I don't know if that's correct. I feel like that's an exaggeration. But you get the point. And then you apply that on an international, global level. You have schools in, let's say, like rural parts of countries like Nigeria, right? They may not be even able to afford certain resources like proper books and all that. Now, imagine adding AI to the equation. So I think it's a really interesting story that I don't think should be forgotten or not told. And real quick, shout out, I think my mom she has a really cool podcast that touches on this. Not particularly, she touches on the digital divide angle, but just like in the gaps between education, like from rural schools to just like modern schools, and how do teachers in rural schools make it work. So that's something that's really interesting. I do think I want to look more into just because of the I don't say nuance, just like the topic is interesting when you think about it. Other stuff I want to look into is in the previous episode, I touched on this a bit, but I said that LLMs basically are going to be biased. But LLMs, I said L three times. Anyways, I said that LLMs, large language models, are going to be biased based on the data you train on. That's correct, right? But then sometimes we want to touch more on this in context learning. So as you're giving, let's take okay, you train an AI on these graded papers, right? And you graded a very specific style to say that style is correct. That's what the AI is going to think. But as you grade more and more papers with the AI, then let's say you change your grading style, and then you think, okay, grading style, writing style B is now good as well as so is writing style A. The idea of in context learning is that the AI should be able to adapt to that and follow that standard. And based off the research paper I was seeing, that seems to be the case. But I want to gather more evidence and mention that in my paper as well. Um, Also, I want to touch on my paper. I touched on the cost of like doing this research. In fact, like even to try out these stuff, I could even do that. But I also want to touch on the cost of like implementing these AIs into schools. So from training and inference, and I don't know how that would scale when it comes to schools. Let me see if there's any other notes that I do think will be interesting to touch on. Just some explain some other stuff. So, for example, I think my paper is a very high level in the sense that it takes like a large level of abstraction. It doesn't actually go into like the why of how these stuff work. Like when it comes to the why of how or the how of how AIs actually create papers and all that. So I do think that what I want to not necessarily put on my poster, but I want to actually understand the foundation, so I can actually explain it better. I find that when you understand the low level content, then you're able to better understand the high level content. Um, so that's what I also want to do. Another thing I also want to do, I think I also really did not, okay, like in this research paper, it's not really mentioned how teachers grade essays. I know I was struggling with that in the last episode. I was really wondering, like, to what degree is a teacher and AI grading a paper different in terms of biases and just like what do they look for? So I want to like look more into that and see if I can kind of like extract some idea of how they do it and basically put into like a diagram so I can compare them. But that's really where I am with this research paper. That's what I did right now. I just went through the research paper, highlighted stuff I want to add on to, bolder stuff that I think are important. I want to emphasize in the paper or the poster rather. And then after I can design it, I'll do some practice. Cause I found that's what was really lacking in the spring research. For like I didn't really practice my presentation, and I found that affected how I presented. And I don't want that to be the case for this National Conference of Undergraduate Research. But yeah. I do think it's gonna be fun. I do think it's gonna be a fun time. I do think I love really doing this research. It's nice when you just like listen to music and then you're doing it. I feel like I'm a very unseriouss researcher. Like I just listen to like my style of music, be like Kendrick Lamar or like Steven Universe or Talib Kweli or Hamilton, just like anything that is. I'm just listening to my music as I'm like doing this AI research. I always find it so ridiculous. But yeah, besides, I have nothing else to say. So have a great day.